Please subscribe to our channel, Pacific Front Untold, and be sure to leave a comment after watching a video.
Shigenori Togo was Japan's Minister of Foreign Affairs at both the beginning and the end of the Japanese-Allied conflict during World War II. Opposed to the war, Togo in 1941 unsuccessfully tried to arrange face-to-face negotiations between U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Japanese Prime Minister Fumimaro Konoe to prevent the outbreak of armed conflict. His efforts, however, were ultimately unsuccessful. Togo resigned in 1942, but was asked again to become foreign minister in 1945. During this time, Togo was a strong advocate for the Japanese surrender, though his efforts again failed. Togo was born in Kagoshima in 1882. After graduating from the Imperial University of Tokyo in 1904, he studied German at Meiji University. In 1912, he joined Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where he served as a diplomat. Prior to the war, Togo worked in China, Europe, and the U.S., including as an ambassador to Germany and the Soviet Union. Togo was appointed the role of Minister of Foreign Affairs in 1941, before the outbreak of the war. In 1941, amidst high tensions between Japan and the U.S., the two countries attempted diplomatic negotiations to avoid war. Togo was opposed to armed conflict, believing that Japan could not win a war against the United States. Despite months of diplomatic talks, however, neither side would budge on concessions. Notably, one of America's most key demands, that Japan withdraw from China, was seen as unacceptable by Japanese military leaders. As negotiations failed to progress, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The following day, the U.S. declared war on Japan. In 1942, Togo resigned as foreign minister due to disagreement over the conduct of the war and the method of political decision-making. As a private citizen, Togo was an advocate for the Japanese surrender. He wrote in an unpublished memoir, quote, "Considering the fact that the war was developing against Japan's favor, I at any rate felt, especially after the loss of Saipan, that it was most difficult to carry on and that a war which offered no prospects should be terminated as soon as possible." Close quote. As war prospects dwindled, Togo was again asked to become foreign minister in April 1945. Upon resuming his post, his main objectives were to prevent the Soviet Union from entering the war against Japan and to secure the Soviet Union as a mediator in discussions to terminate the war. He favored a speedy and peaceful end to the war and believed that Soviet mediation would end the war on more favorable terms to Japan, as the U.S. and Britain favored unconditional surrender. Togo's diplomatic efforts to end the war in 1945 proved misguided. While he earnestly wanted the war to end and made real efforts to win Soviet mediation, Japan's leadership was not seriously committed to ending the war. In fact, it would be discovered that Japan had no real intent to surrender, as members of the administration were holding out hope that Japan would win a counter-invasion battle and turn the tide of the war. Japanese diplomatic and military intercepts obtained by the U.S. confirmed American suspicions that Japan was nowhere near a peace effort and that the Moscow Initiative was an attempt to avert defeat by taking advantage of American war weariness. After the war, key Japanese officials admitted that they never agreed on concessions to obtain Soviet mediation, much less peace terms. Thus, Togo's diplomatic efforts were doomed to fail. The failure of Togo's 1945 diplomatic efforts helped to solidify that the war would not have a peaceful end. After the war, Togo was sentenced to 20 years of imprisonment as a Class A war criminal. He died in prison in 1950 of illness.